We are doing good tonight. Yeah. Thanks for having us. I would probably guess about 3 years at this point. I think I've been fully out for about, I don't know, maybe 2 years or so, 2.5 years. Well,
12 years?
we have been, let's see. Okay, well, we've been married 11 years right now. So if you go back a couple of years, it'd be about 8 to 9 years we were married when I left Christianity. And we had dated for about 4 years before we got married. So we probably knew each other about 12, 13 years as Christians before I came into my atheism. So yeah, when we got married, we were both Christians.
I didn't. It's not even something I really thought about. I never really had an opinion. I only knew one person who was an atheist, basically, that was open about it, and I can't say who that was, but I wasn't very fond of that person anyway. I mean, that person did drink and did have narcissism issues, so, but I don't think that that's just because they were an atheist. That could be anybody, really. So,
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't. It's hard for me to recall, really. I probably did have that pastors or anybody telling me, that atheists were bad or giving me opinions or what I should think about that. But I still think, like, in my own mind, I considered myself to be, have better morals or things of that nature than atheism. So there was definitely a bias there. I don't think it was very deep. I don't think it was that, like, I had an animus against atheists or anything. Because yeah, I did know at least a couple of atheists, and I was had them in my family or that I was friends with, and certainly had no problem getting along with them or anything of that nature. So
Awesome. um, so Heather, how has it been like since Brendan lost his faith?
unmute.
Oh, crap! Sorry, guys. Heather, how has it been like for you as far as everything goes since Brendan lost his faith?
it's not been easy. Um, I mean, I watch his shows. I think I have more of a. I don't care that he's an atheist. I don't care that he doesn't believe in God. I care that he's an activist. I care that he's on Facebook and Twitter and YouTubing and putting his time and energy into that far far more than he had in the past with church or Christianity or anything else. His focus has shifted dramatically. And I'm not an outspoken person. I'm just not. I am very.
So I think while there was the initial shock, obviously, of me.
It was very poorly.
Yeah, we can get into that in a minute, but like
executed.
there was definitely an initial shock value there, of course, and some adjusting and things of that nature. But I think what she's trying to say is really, it's not so much like at this point, now that we're kind of into it, a couple of years at this point, it's not so much that I'm an atheist that she has a problem with. It's more that how much time and effort I put into it, and that I never really went to church that much or did like Bible studies or things of that nature. And it's not even necessarily atheism. It could be anything. Like
If it was fantasy football, I'd have a problem with it. If he spent that much time and energy trying to figure out like what players he wanted, and I'd be like, what are you doing?
So it's really more of an issue of where my time is being spent than how, the reason why I'm doing it. So.
But also, just on a little side note, like what he said about feeling like he was holier than thou, as a Christian, looking at people who weren't. It's things like that ping me like pretty badly in our marriage. Because in my head, I'm like, oh my God, you're an atheist and you think that you are like the smartest man in the world now. Like, so I feel like he's the same, only on the opposite side. It's not like he's so much better now. It's just he's taken his efforts and flipped them. So he still does feel holier than thou. Only now he's like, oh, you Christians don't know what you're talking about. I am the smartest man in the world. So, those things ping me terrible. And you're laughing. And it does. It makes me crazy.
No, just let it rip.
Well, no, I mean, I have the same trouble myself balancing. Sorry. I have the same problem myself, with balancing my activist activities with home life and whatnot. I mean, Brandon, what do you think about your ability to balance being the activist and home life and whatnot?
Well, my activities are mostly just contained to doing my YouTube channel, which is that's how it all really started. I had this desire to put my opinion out on YouTube. There was a lot of topics that I wanted to cover. There was a lot of opinions that I wanted to express, and I thought that doing YouTube would be a good way to do that. And then kind of in support of that, I also created my Facebook page, which I'm Prototype Atheist, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that at all. But so I started my Facebook page in support of my channel to try to direct people over there. I started creating, some of my own memes and things of that, because just depending on what the subject matter is or how I'm trying to express an opinion or an idea, sometimes a video works better. Sometimes I'm creating a picture meme works better or what have you. So it just started off as that, and it just started off as a hobby. And really just like doing comments on like blogs and things like that using the Discus commenting system. And then it just kind of grew from there. Like originally she didn't even know that I was doing any of this stuff. But then obviously she came to find out about it. And I definitely have put in more time, as time has gone on, I put more time invested into this, but I'm trying to reach that balance between, doing this type of activism and education and trying to reach people and obviously taking care of my obligations at home with my family and everything. So there's definitely a balance that needs to be struck there. I think she probably thinks no matter how much time I spend doing it, it's probably too much. But since the new year turned over, I've only made, I think, 2 videos on my channel. And obviously, we do our weekly Reason episodes. But other than that, I haven't been putting out too many videos. And I try to record those like when she has a night out with her friends or something like that, so that I'm not taking time away from us or the kids being able to hang out if I can help it. And then I also been doing Twitter a lot, so it's just one of those things where you just have to balance everything out, I think. So I don't know, you have any other comments on that? Probably best to not chime in there.
I'll just smile. No, I think what you said about part of the poor reaction to his whole atheism thing was the fact that he did not talk to me about it at all. And he dropped it in my lap when I was 6 months pregnant with our son and just said, here you go, deal with it. And that was it. There was no conversation before that. There was no, hey, I have doubts. There was no, hey, I've been talking to so-and-so online. I'm thinking about doing this. There was nothing. There was just oh, here you go. I no longer believe in God. Deal with it.
Yeah, it could have been
awesome.
It could have been handled a lot better on my part as far as the whole coming out of the closet as an atheist thing. Basically, what ended up happening was I changed my religious preference on Facebook from Christian to agnostic, not realizing that would show up in like people's news feeds. I thought like, okay, yeah, if people like come and look at my page, they'll see it, but I didn't realize it would like send out a notification. So like couple days later, we're sitting at dinner with her parents, and they're like mentioned, oh, somebody said you changed your religious status to agnostic. And I was like, I don't know anything about that. It must be a Facebook glitch. But the cat was out of the bag at that point. So, I ended up having to tell her. Obviously, I wasn't going to do it right then. But obviously, when we had some time to speak privately, I told her. And her being pregnant with our son was, she was very emotional. So that was not the best
Not
way.
a great day.
It was not the best day. And yeah, it was very off-putting and kind of came out of left field as far as she was concerned. So, I mean, on one hand, I was hesitant to tell her because obviously I had a feeling of what her reaction was going to be and how she was going to handle it and all that. So, I was just trying to avoid it, but it ended up just making it worse. So, if there's anybody else out there in a similar situation, just be honest and, don't try to hide anything and just talk about it. It's the best thing you could do.
So I guess you would say that you didn't immediately go to the "I'm gonna get a divorce" kind of angle, which is what Lee Strobel in his interview. That's what he said he did when his wife switched to being a Christian. He was like, "Well, I didn't sign up for this. I'm gonna go get me a divorce." So it's safe to say that you didn't have that initial reaction when you realized that you didn't believe in God anymore.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I've never had that reaction at all because, it doesn't bother me if she wants to continue being a Christian or believe whatever she wants. But like really, in that analogy, she would be Lee Strobel because I was the one that changed. So even though it's a reverse situation where I went from being a Christian to an atheist, I was the one that changed from when we got married. So the expectation was that we would both be Christians. We would raise our kids as Christians. We would go to church and all this. Although I have to say we didn't really go to church that frequently anyways, even when we were Christians. I was never really that big of a fan of church, just my personal preference. But I know that, you can go ahead and give your reaction and all that and what you felt about it.
No, I think his reaction is it's a pretty common like fear reaction. It's not I'm not gonna divorce you because you're an atheist. How is this going to work? My reaction was probably not to the point where I was like, that's it, we're getting a divorce, but it was it wasn't taken well on my part at all because it does change. It changes a lot of things. It changes the expectations for our kids. It changes what I don't want to say allowed to and not allowed to do because I can do whatever I want to do with our children, but it does change. I have to, fight with him about taking the kids to church. I have to fight with him about getting our kids baptized. Like, that is not something I signed up for. I didn't sign up for a YouTube video vlogger putting our information out there, and he doesn't care if his family feels safe or not. Like, I didn't sign up for that. So for me, I mean, it's still a struggle. I mean, who knows where we'll be in 10 years? Who knows? But I mean, it's not that he was an atheist. It's okay. So what's going to change because you're an atheist? What are we going to be doing differently? Things aren't going the way that I thought they were going to go. So now what? Where does that leave us? And I think it's pretty. What did Ayla say last week? Either I'm going to become an atheist or we're getting divorced. Like, those are our two options. Like, I think that's how people feel about it, but I don't think that that's necessarily a right way to think about it either. I mean, if I'm going to let him do his thing, he needs to let me do mine too. So there has to be some kind of mutual boundaries and respect there in order for it to work. Now, we're still very, very new at this. This is hugely new. So even though it's been 2 years and he's confident in his position and everything, it's still
we're still navigating it. I mean, we have young kids, and as they grow older and how we handle it and all that stuff. And I'm fine with them learning about religion. I'm fine with them even going to church if she wants to take them to church. I don't have a problem with it. So we just kind of take it as we go, really. I mean, it's just a compromise thing, and it's not something that has to be a deal breaker at all by any means. So.
Well, that's really good to hear. Because I mean, at least from the Christian side of things. Wait, yeah, okay, you can hear me. Good.
Yeah,
um,
no, you're good.
okay. Uh, well, I was just gonna say from the Christian side of things because I know there's a lot of people out there that really hold to this idea as far as with their religious faith that they want somebody that is in pursuit of that particular religious faith or whatnot, and that's kind of like I guess that's being presented as like a deal breaker. But I'm glad to see that Heather isn't part of that persuasion. I guess. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, we kind of alluded to it earlier. Like I said, when I was raised Catholic, when I was kind of like in my senior year of high school, I kind of fell into this place of, I guess, atheism for a little while. And then when I met, sorry, when I met Heather, she was a Christian, and she pretty much made it clear that, she didn't have any interest in somebody who wasn't a Christian. And so, where I was at, I pretty much said, well, maybe Catholicism just isn't right for me, but I hadn't, written off Christianity or religion or anything like that. I just thought Catholicism was really rigid and ritualistic and just odd to me. And I said, hey, I don't have any experience with any of these other denominations or whatnot, so I'll give it a try. And she still questions to this day if I actually ever was a Christian again past that point. But in all honesty, I really was. I
really think at that point you would have said anything to marry me. That it's just.
Hey, I can't blame me if I would have done that.
Just saying.
But in all honesty, no, I really did. I can. That's actually when I read the entire Bible cover to cover, was during that time period when I was kind of rediscovering Christianity and everything. And it's weird because a lot of people say reading the whole Bible is a good way to become an atheist, and I agree with that. But when I did read the Bible from cover to cover as a Christian, I wanted to obviously know what I was supposed to be believing in, and it actually like strengthened my faith. And embarrassingly enough, I actually got into the whole Left Behind book series, and I read like all 12 or 13 books, I think, like within like a month or two. I even like was watching the Kirk Cameron straight to DVD movies at home and everything. So like, I was into it, man. I was completely into all that stuff. And and just eventually over time, like I just came to realize that I couldn't believe in that stuff anymore. But I really did give it like an actual, another chance, another effort, whether she thinks I did or not. So.
Well, I have to say you do pass the official Christian test. You were watching Kirk Cameron.
Yes, thank you.
Award
winning. Yes, you won some Razzies.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Sorry, I had to get back on track with my questions. In Lee's interview, he kind of really laid out these kind of rules between him and his wife. I mean, have you guys kind of done the same thing as far as your discussions go, or whatnot? I'm wondering what that's kind of like.
As far as like discussing religion and that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I guess discussing religion or faith or anywhere that might come up, like in your daily life or anything like that, considering your new worldview.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really typically discuss our religious beliefs on a daily basis. It's not something that really comes up. I mean, we know where each other stands right now, and I think we kind of know that. Well, she knows that if she's ever open to discussing it, that I'm always willing to discuss it, but I'm not gonna force her. I'm not gonna like demand that she have a religious discussion with me. It's fine if we disagree. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not trying to deconvert her or anything, and she's not trying to bring me back to Christianity, anything like that. She'll pray with the kids at night, or sometimes things like that. But yeah, I mean, there's no rules or anything other than, I don't want the kids learning any crazy religious stuff, like they'll go to hell or something like that. anything that I would consider kind of abusive. But, I don't have a problem with them learning about God or learning about the Bible, the typical kid stories that they learn about, and Noah's Ark, and I don't know, whatever, all that kind of stuff. I don't have a problem with any of that stuff. So
we just don't talk about it. We don't. It never leads to anywhere good. So
yeah, we typically don't talk about it. I mean, it's not,
He used to try. You used to try.
Yeah, when
to
I first
engage
started
me
doing all
because
this
he thought he
stuff,
was like,
well, when I first started doing all this
amazing.
stuff online and everything, I would try to engage her and like convince her, because I felt so strongly, like, how can you deny all this, my arguments and my evidence and stuff. But I've backed off. I don't even, it's not something we really get into. And like anytime, if we're at like a family function or something and they're praying or whatever, like I just respect, it's their house or whatever. And I don't try to engage people unless they're willing to come to me first, or they put out their opinion publicly first. Otherwise, I don't really say anything. So.
Well, what's it been like between extended family members, like since you've come into the atheist closet?
Well, as far as my side of the family goes, it's largely Christian, but I think a lot of them are very private in their faith, or they're not super religious. It's not something that gets discussed a lot. It's not like a huge part of their lives. I mean, it might be, but privately more. It's not. I'm sure it's nothing like you experienced down there in Alabama. It's much more low key, toned down. But as far as like her side of the family, well, especially like on her stepmom's side of the family, there's a lot of evangelicals, and once in a while they'll be on Facebook putting out some comments or something, and there'll be a discussion going or whatever. There'll be a few different people involved from the family or things like that, and I'll sometimes chime in, and usually it'll have to do with something like abortion, or it'll have to do with like gay marriage. So not directly just discussing religion, but obviously as a tangent to religion, because that's why they hold the positions that they do. So I've definitely got into it with a couple extended family members on her side, but it hasn't really. I mean, I got a little brushback from it and caused a little bit of a stir, but I mean, really, I don't actively, like I said, I don't actively go out and seek people for these discussions. It's just, it's more to correct people, especially when they're putting out bad science. Like the reason I got involved in like the abortion discussions, because they were trying to advance this thing about fetal pain being possible at 20 weeks, and that's just not the case. Or they were saying that like abortion increases the risk of breast cancer, which it does not. And like I would cite them sources, and they would just completely ignore it. Or like with gay marriage, I'd be trying to explain to them why their religion has no bearing on legal marriage in the United States, things of that nature. So usually it's not even, I don't go out of my way to be like, oh, you're wrong, Jesus doesn't exist. It's more like the politically motivated positions that they might have, but it has caused a little bit of a dust up, but I think that's pretty typical of any family. That's not even so much an atheism Christianity thing as it is a political thing. So, but
I just think that he needs to close his mouth when it comes to family members, because they're my family members, and it doesn't necessarily affect his life, but it does affect mine. So he can say what he wants to say. He's a big boy. He can do whatever he wants to do. But out of respect for myself and my family, I just don't think it's an appropriate topic to engage in, because Brennan can be as nice as he sounds on camera. He can be very
firm.
I wouldn't even use the word firm.
Abrasive.
Very abrasive. It's like he lost his tact factor. I don't know how else to explain it. Like he decided that he was going to be 16 again and say whatever he wants without any consequences and just go for it. And I think he needs to pull it back in, especially when he's talking to, in particular, my family. What he wants to do online to complete strangers, whatever. I still have a problem with it. I think it shows lack of character on his end. But when it comes to my family, we've officially drawn a boundary there where he will not engage them, because it's not worth it for me. I mean, it doesn't affect him, but it does affect me. And in marriage, even though it probably kills him, he does have to restrain himself because
Well,
I'm the one.
yeah, I mean,
I'm the one losing something from his arguments with people.
that's the thing, though. I mean, like I said, it's not really so much the religious debate as it is political debates. I mean, it's related, obviously, but um, yeah, I mean, I can definitely get very adamant and opinionated when it comes to certain things, like anti-vaxxers and abortion and things like that, because I have very little tolerance. Well, like I said, for like bad science, for like just misinformation. Um, it's one thing if people want to be religious or whatever, and obviously I'll try to convince them out of it. But if they still want to go on being religious, at the end of the day, whatever, I tried. But like when they're actually holding opinions and trying to convince other people to do things that are actually harmful, like not vaccinate their kids or something like that, or they're spreading bad information, it's like I don't have any tolerance for that. And then like you give them sources and you tell them like, here you go, this is why you're wrong, and they just continue on in their opinion. Like, yeah, I can get a little testy sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because when I first came into my atheism and I really started getting active on social media, I would definitely become a complete and total asshole. Not to say that's how you would get normally, but I know for me, asshole was a pretty apt description. Um, but so. What like how bad has it gotten between you and the extended family? I know that you guys kind of alluded to the final decision is Brendan needs to keep his mouth shut about religious stuff around the extended family, but I'm just kind of wondering like how bad it's gotten, I guess. Like if there's been any major blowouts or anything like that.
No, I don't think it hasn't caused any rifts or anything like that. Like I know her dad like scolded me a little bit for for what was going on, but
the last one got out of control and it was unnecessary.
But as far as like her stepmom side of the family, we don't ever really see them anyways, so it's not like a huge deal. And other than her dad kind of like being like, I don't really appreciate that. It didn't really go anywhere, and I've kind of backed off since then anyways. So, yeah, no, I mean, it hasn't really caused any problems, like as far as I can think of. I definitely have had people unfriend me on Facebook because of my atheism, and which is
I'm one of them.
Yeah, it's a true story. Which is funny because I have my page and everything, and most of the stuff I don't post like atheist memes. I don't like post articles. Like generally, I just don't post anything about it on my personal Facebook page. But of course, you can see in the news feed anytime I comment on like public groups or on other pages and things of that, like the stuff will come up, and it might come up in your news feed or something. But and that was just enough to get a couple of people to unfriend me, and she did actually for a while because she just didn't want to see any of it. Until
and then you friended me back. You went on my page and friended.
I did. I logged in under her page and I friended myself again. But I also I unsubscribed, so we were still friends. We could still share information, all that kind of stuff. She just wouldn't see all of my comments and posts in her feed. So that was the solution to that. But that's the thing is like I don't typically go out of my way to engage people in these discussions. It's just a matter of me, putting my opinions on other groups and pages and things, and people could see that, and even that is just enough for them to be like, I don't want to see it, I can't deal with it. So but it's not like I've lost any friendships in actual real life that I can think of, but people have stopped being my Facebook friends. So
but I will say too, people, like I said, your tactfulness has left the building. So I think a lot of people just don't appreciate the fact that you can be such.
I'm a lot more outspoken now than I used to be. So it's not just necessarily an atheism thing. It's kind of like an attitude thing.
It is. His attitude has definitely not improved with atheism.
I was a very I was very introverted before. I was very non-confrontational.
Very nice.
I still am. It's just
he was a great guy.
I'm a lot firmer in my opinions now, and I'm willing to speak out about them, is what it amounts to. So
at all costs, by the way.
at all costs. I'm kind of curious. Have you ever been worried about like your job or anything like that, due to your online activism?
Me personally, I'm not worried about it because I work at a large corporation, and I'm also in science and engineering fields. So, um, that's just not even an issue. It's not something obviously that I go around really like promoting at work or anything like that. Um, religious beliefs rarely come up in my place of employment for any reason. And if they did, I think people would just be like, "Oh, okay," because being in
Uh-huh.
those fields, science and engineering, you're going to have a lot more people who are more liberal in their religious beliefs, or even non-religious or atheists. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I don't have any of those kind of concerns. I don't work for a small company. I don't work for, I don't work in, I live in Chicago. I don't live in the Bible Belt, so I don't have any concerns as far as that goes, at all, really.
Well, that's good. I mean, but me, I work in the STEM field primarily, and yet, like I swear, there's got to be at least an hour and a half broken up across the day where people just sit around and they talk about religious stuff. And like I know the one of the last days I was at work, because we've had this whole snow stuff. Um, One of the last days at work, I actually heard one of the guys reference the end times and something about current events, that he's like, that's a real sign of the end times, and I'm just like, oh, John, don't say anything, just don't, because at my last project, I actually was pretty vocal about it, and there was actually a guy that sat a few cubes down that for some reason like had a particular interest in me, and he would always, like, I guess, poke the bear, I guess. Um, and so I guess you really don't have people like that at your job, though, huh?
No, I think that's the culture down by you, though. You got to pick your spots, though. I mean, yeah, it's probably not in your best interest to go into all that at your place of employment. As much as it might pain you to have to bite your tongue, and I mean, even if you're going to be nice about it, it's just you're probably not going to get through to them, and they just, that's not the venue for it. It's not the place to really be. I mean, they really shouldn't be doing it either, but that's just the way things are down there, and I know it. Even though I don't live there, I know it. So
Yeah. Well, you see, the funny thing is that I would never start these discussions. It's not like I walked into the room, I was like, "Hey, anybody want to talk about faith?" kind of thing, it's like they would always just have these discussions, and they would, like, it would either be current events, because we're at the project I worked on before. Everybody in there read the Drudge Report, and I don't know if you guys really know about the Drudge Report, but it's a pretty conservative news site. Um, and so, they would all read the Judge Report, and then they would all like talk about something. And whenever the topic of faith come up, I would bite my tongue for like the longest time, and then I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna say something. And it never turned out well. It always, just about every argument ended with somebody yelling at me. The last argument actually that I had in there, before I did just decided to shut my mouth altogether, was the guy ended up yelling at me, "I don't want no homosexuals in my Boy Scouts."
Special.
Yeah,
oh man.
and I just had to walk away, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna have this argument with you.
Well, and that's the thing. That's why it's so difficult, because it's hard enough trying to convince these people to why their opinions are wrong, or why it's bad thinking and bad logic and all that. But then you get these situations where you're at work and they're talking about this stuff, and you can't say anything, because you're not going to put your livelihood on the line. You're not going to be the one that's trying to be a culture warrior and all that, and risk your livelihood. I mean, that's the tough part, because they have no concerns about talking about that stuff. To them, it's just normal. It's just life. You just talk about that, God and church and religion and their politics and all that stuff. And Yeah, especially if you're in the minority like that. I mean, maybe if you had a couple people that could agree with you, but if you're fighting that battle solo, man, I feel for you because that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, and it is pretty rough, especially around family members. Not so much like my own personal ones, but my wife. I mean, she's got one grandmother who used to be married to a preacher, and so it's like every time she mentions something about God, or like, well, for instance, one time right before Christmas, she said that we really need to be raising Xander in the church, because that's the only way they turn out good, as she put it. And I just had to sit there and be like, John, don't kill her grandmother. Not like me actually like physically killing her. I mean like because I'm gonna have an argument with her or something like that, and I just have to sit there and be like, "Oh, okay, all right," and kind of play it off like that. But I have to do that for my own grandmother too. Whenever except for the other day, she actually called me at work. And I let her know that I had gotten ordained and that I was going to be, helping out with marrying LGBT couples here in North Alabama. I let her know that, and like she was really confused about my cousin, and that's how the whole LGBT thing got brought up because I told her that my cousin was gay and that she was going to be getting married to. This girl this summer, and then she's like, well, I always knew. And she was just kind of stunned. She was like, "Well, I always knew there was something off about her, but girls." And she's like, "Well, when did she become one?" I'm like, "No, look, uh, she's always been gay. She's just now realizing it." And she's like, "Oh, well, I don't know how all that works." So I was just like,
Yes.
So I mean,
It's
do
your
you?
grandma. You got to let it fly.
No, yeah, yeah, I did, and I just I didn't really say anything other than I didn't want her to think that well, I don't know if I convinced her that people don't just choose to be gay or whatnot, but I very politely and very nicely was like, well, she's always been that way, in reference to my cousin. But I'm kind of curious. Do you
Yeah.
have
No, go
uh,
ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, do you ever get any family members that know about your atheism that try to sort of poke the bear or anything like that?
I don't think so. No one really brings it up with me. It's not something that I really discuss openly or anything. I think everybody, I think it's kind of filtered down to everybody now. Obviously, they can see what I post on Facebook. Or they've heard by word of mouth or what have you. But it's not something that I've gone out and announced to people that I'm an atheist or that I do this. It's just kind of something that has trickled out over time. Um, because I just don't think it's that important to really, make a big a deal out of it. I just think um, it's funny because I have two brothers and I have a sister, and all of them, we were all raised Catholic, but we're all pretty much like non-religious. Um, so, I at least can talk to them about things or whatever, and they know and they don't have a problem with it or anything. So, my as far as my parents go, like, they know that like all their kids are not really that religious or anything, and it's not a huge deal. They still believe in God, but um, my dad was never really much of a church goer, and he never went to church or anything like that. He's just more of like a God guy. And then my mom has really kind of chillaxed with the religion. She like made us go to church every week. She made us do like the religious education classes, all that stuff. But as she's gotten older, like she's kind of turned more like I guess spiritual, I'd call it, or just believing in God, not necessarily like she doesn't really go to church anymore or anything like that. Um, so like I said, like as far as my side of the family goes, people are mostly private with it, so no one really discusses it. And then when it comes to her side of the family, for the most part, like they're a lot more involved with the church and it's a lot more important to their lives, but it's not something that we discuss or anything like that as far as our differences. So we just kind of respect each other's differences of opinion. So
I was say my family, my friends are more like, so how you doing, Heather? They're more concerned about how it's affecting me than they really care about what he's doing. So.
Or Heather, are you making it behind enemy lines?
sound.
I muted myself that time. No, I was just saying, it's like, Heather, how you doing behind enemy lines?
Basically, it's not so much that though. I mean, once again though, too, it's the time, you know, it's the time, the time spent, the energy spent, the mental energy spent. You know, it's not just apparent to me. Other people see that and they're like, blah, what is he doing? Blah, you know, it is what it is.
But that's why you don't see too much production value in my videos, because what little time I do have to put into them, you know, I try to make them as good as I can. So.
And I mean, I'm trying to be okay with him having his outlet and having this new thing. It's just the first thing in 15 years that we're not on board together with. So, so it's very hard to be happy for him.
Yeah, we don't have many disagreements or arguments about anything.
This is like the first major like crushing line here.
To have something like this be like the first thing that we like disagree on is pretty major. So
it's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal. So yeah, I mean, for this to be the first thing that, you know, his online community, I don't know anything about it. His Twitter community, I have no idea. And if you asked most married women, like, hey, your husband has an online so-and-so, it's like instant red flag for fear. Like, why is my husband online? Why is he talking to this person? Who is this lady who's messaging my husband? I don't know them. I don't know what the conversations are. Like, it's extremely, it is not something I trust. So.
Well, luckily for her, though, I'm completely heterosexual, and the atheist community, especially online, is almost exclusively dudes. So
Whatever.
I know there's some women out there, and we encourage them to come out and be a part of it. But yeah.
But still, it's hard. It's hard for me knowing that I don't support his efforts in this area necessarily. But he has this whole support cheer group online. Well, okay, well, why do men leave? It's not because the other girl's prettier. It's because he's getting the ego filled somewhere else. So his ego is definitely getting stroked online. It's definitely, he's being encouraged. He's being, oh man, great job, good content, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I'm at home being like, why are you wasting your time online? Like, I don't understand what you're doing. So, you know, I mean, I try to just not say anything at this point, and let it go, but it's very difficult for me.
Yeah, I have a feeling that my wife and
no, you muted again.
Oh, damn. I have a feeling that my wife and you would get along very well, because she has pretty much the same grievances about me as far as how much time I spend, on my activism and whatnot. But are there any instances, like, other than, you know, your friends asking you, "Oh, are you okay, Heather?" Like do they ever, like, I guess, sort of 20 questions you about it or anything?
Not really. I mean, I probably just started telling people, like my friends and stuff, within the last 6 months. And I don't tell my friends and family everything that makes me mad or pings me that he's doing, because at the end of the day, he's still my husband and I can't have a bunch of people hating him. So I'm going to forgive him and get over it, and they may not. So I think that's part of what's been part of the problem, is that I don't have a neutral ground to express how I feel about certain things that he does, says. You know, I don't have that neutral thing, which is why, you know, a couple months ago when I was like, I want to go to counseling. This is not working. We are fighting. We're not getting anywhere. We're hamsters on wheels, going round and round and round, but getting nowhere fast. So, I mean, that's something, but he was completely against that. So it took me a while to just say, screw it. I'm doing it. I'm going. and that's the end of it, you know.
Well, let me just say that the reason that I was hesitant to let her go to counseling was because I would prefer to her to try to talk it out with me first, or to try to discuss our differences amongst ourselves rather than going to a third party. But I guess she felt that our efforts at doing that were inadequate, so
failing miserably.
So yeah, it's just a good it's just a good outlet for her to deal with her feelings and, you know, frustrations, I guess, and to somebody that's not going to be biased, that can just kind of give her a straight up opinion.
Well, if he hated you at the end of the day, I wouldn't care. You know what I mean? Like, if my therapist was like, wow, your husband's a total douchebag and, like, you should leave him, I'd be like, all right, dude, have a great day. I'll see you later. Like, you know, I mean, it wouldn't affect my life at all. If it was my mom who was like, Brennan's an asshole, how can he do that? Blah, blah, blah. You know, that's different. That's different. That's my mom. She's not going anywhere. So, yeah, we'll see. But no, for the most part, everyone, all my friends now are like, so how's counseling? Can I, like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, everybody wants to go now. It's wonderful. Because apparently every husband has something that they do wrong on a regular basis.
You never would have guessed.
Yeah, I have multiple things that I do wrong on a daily basis. So I come home and
everybody has something.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm to the point where, you know, I can usually tell by the look on Sarah's face whether or not I fucked up and exactly how bad.
Right?
Not a word needs to be said.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are kind of coping with the mixed faith marriage kind of deal. Do you think that the road ahead is kind of rocky, or not necessarily rocky as in, oh, you're gonna get a divorce, but, you know, like, just continuing the troubles that you see now, or do you see yourselves kind of finding that balance?
I think as we work our way through this and kind of navigate things, you know, we'll be okay. I don't think it's something that just gets, you know, put behind us at some point. I think that it's going to be a continuing, evolving situation as, you know, as our kids get older and obviously as our family grows and just, you know, dealing with different things. You know, her not being like super religious, it's not like we have to really rely upon like biblical values or the church or things like that. I mean, so I don't anticipate that'll be like a huge point of contention going forward. But, you know, certainly there'll be things that'll come up, I'm sure, and we'll just try to work our way through them. I know a thing that she gets mad at me about is I've told her in the past that I feel like eventually at some point she's going to become an atheist, especially if she continues like watching my content and like, because she does, she monitors like my videos and like everything that I post, and I'm just like, I don't see how you can expose yourself to all this information and at some point eventually not reach the same conclusions that I did. But if she never does, I'm okay with that. She gets mad when I say that.
No, I get mad because, first of all, when he first decided to do this, who the hell's page did you comment on? I was so pissed because I found it somehow.
Oh, I think I left a comment. I think I left the comment on Hemant's page, the Friendly Atheist, on
saying like blah blah blah. You know, my wife's a Christian, but I'm sure eventually she'll lose her faith. Like, don't fucking talk about me like that. Like, I don't go around on like Facebook saying like eventually he'll come back to Christianity. No, do whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, don't make assumptions about me. It's ignorant.
No, I'm not saying that like she definitely will or that I need her to for any reason. That's just my personal opinion. Is I don't know how you can continually expose yourself to that information and not think about it and come to the same conclusion. But I digress.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, you know, like I said, I'm okay. Like if she wants to continue being Christian, I don't have a problem with it. There's way more to her than just what she believes about religion. There's way more to me than just the fact that I'm an atheist. That's just one part of who I am. And while it is something that I put out there as a large part of who I am, like, you know, online as far as my activism and what I spend a lot of my free time doing, it's just a part of who I am. And there's no reason that, you know, that has to come between us. Certainly, you know, we don't have any intentions on separating, divorcing, anything like that. We're, you know, maybe not on the path that we had originally intended on being on when we got married, but you know,
You veered.
I veered. I took a fork in the road, but you know, we're still hanging in there. We're sticking by each other. You know, we made vows to each other. We're raising a family. You know, we still love each other, and it's just every couple has things that is gonna come up, and you know, this is just one of those things, and we're just dealing with it as we go. So.
Yeah, I don't think that this is really any different than what any other married couple goes through. Different topic, same thing. Whether it's atheism, computer time, not spending time with the family. I think these are all very, very normal issues in a relationship. I don't think it's going to be easy going forward. I'm always fearful of where it's going to go next, because it started completely abruptly, almost behind my back, if you want to say it that way. It was thrown in my lap. It was, oh, I'm agnostic. Now I'm an atheist. Oh, she found my Prototype Atheist Facebook page. Oh shit, now he's on Twitter. Oh, now I'm going to do this YouTube thing every, once a month. Oh wait, I'm going to do it every week. It's like every time it gets progressively more, and I'm like, okay, when is this going to be your full-time job? Like, for me, it keeps progressing. It gets more and more and more. And the main thing I have a problem with is, like I said, for me, it's about his character. It always will be. I've tried with all of my might to not make it about atheism at all, because like I said, I really just don't care. For me, it's character. It's how you talk to people. It's how you treat people. Okay, so you don't hate gay people anymore. Awesome. So why are you treating, creationists the same way you used to treat gay people? I don't get how does that make sense? So now you can hate them and treat them like shit, and it's okay because they're wrong and you're right. The hypocrisy of it all, I can't take it.
Well,
I said, for me, it really is. It's a character thing. It's how you treat people. It's how you talk to people. It really is. Like, Brendan used to be the most patient, most kind, awesome person. He really.
Now I'm the devil.
He never was like this before. So this is all very new.
In my defense, though, and what she's referring to is because I've said in the past, I'm actually very patient with people, and I try to gear my comments towards my audience depending on who I'm talking to. Part of the reason that I started doing all of this and started a YouTube channel and everything is because I saw all these people out there like the Amazing Atheist and Dusty Smith and what have you, and they were all really abrasive and screamy and yelling and making fun of religious people. And I wanted to bring something different to the table. I mean, you're always going to have some level of that because people take their beliefs really personally and they hold them close to the vest, and they're going to take criticism of their beliefs personally most of the time. But as far as like creationists go, being in the field of biology, I'm, very educated on the topic of evolution, creationism, intelligent design, all that stuff. So I really try to work with people and actually educate them. But then when it gets to the point where I've invested a lot of energy and time trying to explain things to people and they're just completely refusing to hear any of it, then I've decided that the only thing left, the only chance I have of getting through to them is mockery, because what else do you do at that point? I mean, you try reasoning with them, giving them evidence, showing them why they're wrong, and they just refuse. So the last ditch effort is to be
berate and
just mock, but not them personally, just their beliefs.
Okay.
So
right.
But
sure.
Like I said, people have a hard time discerning beliefs from the person. So sometimes it's blurred lines as far as they're concerned. But
sure.
She's a real big fan, obviously.
Super.
Yeah, I can tell. There's no sarcasm in her voice right now.
It just makes me crazy. It makes me crazy. If you want to be a humanist, you have to love all people. I'm sorry.
And I do.
No, that is not true. You've just switched your hate to different people.
I am not a misanthrope.
Well, Heather, your comments about his attitude really do mimic my wife's comments towards me because when I first accepted that I didn't believe in God anymore or whatnot, I really did have a lot of built up anger. Not
Hmm.
about religion specifically. There's a little bit deeper issue that was really fueling my anger, but I found an outlet and pouring it into that area just personally for me. I'm not trying to speak on Brennan's part at all or anything, but I know that just for me, I did kind of pour a lot of energy as a way of an outlet, I guess. But again, that's just me. Um, but I'm just kind of curious, Brendan. From when you were a Christian and having your biology background, to where you're an atheist now. Where like what changed? Like did you just want to speak out more since once you flipped worldviews, or did you like agree with the creationist point of view at one time and then it changed after you became atheist?
Well, yeah, even when I was a Christian, I've always held pretty liberal views, and I've always been very science minded. I've always had an interest in science. So I was always pro life. I always accepted evolution once I learned about the theory of evolution in biology in high school, and then went on to earn an advanced degree in biology in college. So I was never a creationist. I was never super religious. Like I mentioned earlier, I was required to go to church on a weekly basis, take religious instruction classes. But I went to a public school. I did not go to a private Christian school or anything like that. And while we did like pray and things like that, it wasn't like I don't know. It wasn't something that was ingrained in us. Like it wasn't an essential part of our lives as far as like religion and God and all that stuff. So, I had a pretty balanced worldview as far as that goes. Um, I'm trying to think I can't really pinpoint exactly when I started. Well, I know something, and it's funny, something that started guiding me towards leaving Christianity behind was watching the movie Zeitgeist, which I know is terrible because the reason I watched it was because I knew it was like a 9/11 conspiracy movie, and I wanted to I wanted to see this shit that they were putting out there, like, what is this craziness? What are they putting out there? This is ridiculous. I had no idea that there was a section about religion in there, but obviously anybody who's seen the movie, or even if you haven't, there's this section where uh, they kind of demonstrate like how Christianity borrows all these different ideas from previous religions or related religions and things like that. And a lot of it is very sketchy or just completely fabricated, which I have come to know since then. But at the same time, just the very fact that I started thinking about these things and questioning my faith and being like, well, I have this information now. I can't just pretend like I didn't hear it. I better look into this. And so in looking into it, I did discover that a lot of that stuff that they were presenting was bogus. But at the same time, I also continued, you know, having conversations with people and looking into these things. And a big part of what eventually changed my mind was just having debates with people in online like chat forums and chat rooms and things like that. And so that kind of is what inspired me to kind of do that same thing for other people, because I know it helped me. It helped educate me. A big part of it was not only learning about Christianity and religion itself and what atheism is, but also because I was always very science minded, like I said. But a big part of it was logic. I learned a lot about logical fallacies that I was using in my arguments. People were saying like, hey, that what you're saying to me, that's a logical fallacy. That's a straw man. That's this, that's the other. That's, you're moving the goalposts. And so in just discussing with people, I kept an open mind, and I came to learn, a lot of this stuff. And basically like self-educated myself on the internet with the help of other people. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I don't think it's any coincidence that as the internet has become widely available, that atheism has started to become on the rise, especially in the younger generations, because you have access now to all this information. You have access to other people who can tell you why your arguments are bad, who can explain these things to you, so you're not just stuck in this little bubble anymore of your family or your church or your local community. um, So I think that's pretty much just, what inspired me to want to be active is, because, and especially in the political realm, we could just see how much the Republican Party has aligned themselves with the evangelical Christians in this country. And, as long as they're trying to force religion into our government or into people's lives, I'm going to have a problem with that. And so that's why I need to be outspoken about it, because, it's really, it aligns politically as well. Did you have any comments on that?
As far as the political stuff, though, I mean, really, like, what is your commenting and debating with people online doing for moving things forward in Congress? Nothing. Like, my whole thing too is like, okay, so if you want to do something, then do something productive. Write your congressman. Like, go to the marches, go do something. Like, I would be okay with that. Like, for me, it's like, I don't get.
I mean, I don't get it. I do some political activism as far as on my pages. Like, I don't make any efforts to separate the fact that I'm like a progressive or a liberal or whatever you want to call me from my atheism. And obviously, I realize that there's atheists out there who are libertarians, conservatives, may have other political views, but I don't make any effort to separate that from my page, from my channel. I've made political videos, I've made political memes and things like that. I probably did more of that early on than I do now, but that's not anything that I did consciously. I just think that's just a matter of the way that the political process has flowed, or where we're at in being an off year. There's not a presidential election coming up or anything like that. But as far as that goes, like, I'm of the opinion I would love to do more actual political activism if I could. But obviously, working full time and having a family, and then doing this stuff, I don't have a lot of extra time for that. But at least I'm of the opinion that education is key. I think people are out there that are just simply ignorant, and we're all ignorant about a lot of things. So it's just a matter of getting the proper information out there and telling people what it is. I had somebody on Twitter who was actually a Republican atheist yesterday asking about net neutrality. And what is it, and why are the Republicans opposing it? And like, I explained it to her, and she was like, "Oh, okay, I get it. I'm for net neutrality." So even though she was a Republican, she was like, "Yeah, I don't know why they're doing this." So I mean, just educating people. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. I don't expect somebody to come out of a conversation with me and be like, "Oh, I'm an atheist now," or "I'm a liberal now." But it's something that's a gradual process. I think that just getting the information out there, educating people, is key, and I don't think it's a lost cause at all. I think I'm just doing my small part to help people learn and make their own conclusions based off of good information.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that while it may not be making a lot of big waves now, I think having a consistent force of reason out there is necessary, because I mean, honestly, we don't know what one particular thing that we do is really going to make a big impact. So I mean, in my opinion, I think that everybody doing their best to speak up and just be heard is is eventually going to become a very significant force, like as one, I guess. That's just how I feel about it. But kind of speaking about the political atmosphere here, and yes, I'm unmuted. Awesome. um, I don't know if you guys have heard, but I believe it's what is it, Missouri, or one of those states out there is trying to make their national or their state religion Christianity. I'm just kind of curious, like the dynamic between you two. I mean, how do you feel about that, being an atheist and a Christian?
You can go first on that.
About this,
there was some state trying to make their state religion Christianity. I'm trying to recall what state it was. I can't even. I saw the articles and stuff. But whatever, like.
I don't even know that what that would mean for the state. like what would that?
I don't even think it would necessarily.
Other than saying like we're a Christian state. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think
they
should, but I don't know that it would have any, like, I don't I don't know if it would have any like huge
I think it was more of just like
implications
a
in law or
formal
anything.
declaration thing, but
Okay.
even still, like, you don't agree with that, right?
I just don't care. Like, I know that sounds terrible. I know it does, but it's just not an issue that I care about.
Well, she's just really apathetic towards it, but if you actually, I mean, obviously...
I mean, I don't think that they should name anything, but...
Obviously, that's a church-state separation issue, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think it would, like, change,
it doesn't
like,
matter
laws
what
or
state you
anything.
live in. You can live in Alabama or Texas or Mississippi, and there's still Muslims, there's still atheists, there's still Buddhists, there's still going to be everybody else that lives there. So to say that you're a Christian state is completely unconstitutional and unnecessary because, yeah, I mean, what does that even mean?
That's what I'm saying. I don't even know what that would, like, mean. So
I mean, to say that you're...
Well, I was just going to say, think for a second, what if they were trying to make the state religion Islam?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that would never fly.
Well, right.
Well, that would fly, but...
Well, yeah, I understand that it wouldn't really fly, but I mean, if you think about the outrage that Christians would have over, declaring a state religion to be Islam, I mean, I guess it's more of like a flag move, I guess. Like, I claim Idaho. That was the state, but I claim Idaho for Christianity. Kind of deal.
Yeah, I don't. For some reason, I was thinking it was Idaho too, but maybe I'm mixing that up with the story about the faith healing and all that stuff. I can't remember what state it was that said they wanted Christianity as the state religion.
Well,
but there was also, on that note, there was a state too, and maybe it was like South Dakota or something. But they got all up in arms the other day because they had invited some Muslim, imam or cleric or somebody to do a prayer to open up their state legislative session or whatever. Because obviously that's the proper thing to do is to at least, offer up a different religion to have their say or whatever as part of free speech and freedom of religion and all that. But it just so happened to fall on Ash Wednesday, and they all freaked the fuck out over it. And they canceled it, and they did a Christian prayer. What the hell?
I was going to say, please tell me the monster lady showed up.
Yeah, right. No, she only shows up in Texas, apparently.
Heather, how does it make you feel, like these crazy Christians, I guess you could say, like the Christians that, like this monster woman, she thinks that the devil is head CEO over at Monster Drink, and then she's also interrupting people as they're giving prayers of other faiths and whatnot. She recently made the appearance in Texas on their state capitol during I think it was like State Muslim Day or Islam Day or something like that. But she basically went up there, ripped the microphone out of the woman's hand and started yelling a whole bunch of Jesus Christ into it, and then dropped it like Kanye West and as she walked off the stage. So I'm just kind of curious, how do you feel about people like that, kind of representing your side?
I'm going to let you finish, but Jesus Christ had the best resurrection of all time.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't like crazy people. I mean, the same way that I care about his character, I don't want to be lumped into that group. I think your character and what kind of person you are and who you are on a consistent basis is far more important than declaring if you're a Christian or an atheist or anything else. Like, for me, it's what kind of person are you? I mean, I would never support that. That's ignorant. It's rude. It's uncalled for. Obviously, that woman has like giant balls to be able to do that. I don't know. I don't support the wackadoos. I really don't. And it makes me, I think that's where Brennan and I have a lot of conflict too, because he says things about Christians or whoever, and I am in that category. And when he says things, he's talking about me too, whether he wants to say it or not. I mean, he is. So, and he can say separate the belief and all that stuff, but God, I want to there's a particular person who you guys do a show with that makes my blood boil Boyle, and I know you know who it is. I just, I don't know. I think the statement was, it was something about like you can hate the sin, but not the sinner or something. And the person said, well, that's crazy. You can't do that. You hate the person. And I looked at Brennan and I was like, oh my God, you guys sit here all the time and say, well, we can dislike your belief and not respect your belief, but we still like the person. And I was like, how can you not say something? Like, it's the same thing. God doesn't make me crazy. It's like, I don't know.
So yeah, I think
no, I would never support somebody being like that. I am all about like how you act and being consistent with it too. Like if you're a wish-wash, flip-flop, like all over the place person, I can't handle that. I would rather you be firmly something than nothing. Like.
So yeah, it's like that meme where it's like your religion doesn't make you a good person, your behavior does. I think that's where she's coming from.
Yeah, and far more. Like, what should it matter to anybody, to you, to anybody who would watch this, whether I'm a Christian, a Muslim, an atheist, or whatever? It shouldn't matter.
And that's the thing is like I say, I don't go out of my way to debate religion with people. It's only when they put it out there first. So a lot of the times it is politically involved because, people who are fundamentalist evangelical Christians tend to be a lot more outspoken about their religion and their political views. But we also have to keep in mind that there's a lot of more liberal-minded Christians or people who are maybe Christians, but they're not, super religious, and they keep it more close to the vest. And, and so keep in mind not to lump everybody. And I remember, when I was a Christian, I would get mad when people would do that. They would say like, oh, well, Christians do that, this, that, the other. And it's important not to lump everybody together. I try to always qualify it with like, fundamentalists or those Christians or whatever, because you don't want to generalize or lump all Christians into the same category. I would say a
large group of people who believe in God and who are Christians, there's maybe like the 3% that are the crazy ass people.
Well, it's more than that, but
I don't know about that.
It's more than that.
I don't know.
It's more than that.
I think 3% is just the Westboro Baptist Church.
That's like one family. They just keep reproducing. It's a problem.
Yeah.
No, that's the Doug.
The Duggars are great people. Shush.
No, they're terrible.
They're not.
They just said that liberal Christians are going to hell.
Listen to me. The Duggars have good kids. They support themselves. I don't want to hear about it.
No.
They're nice, kind people.
That's just what they show you. That's just the scripted part.
Well, I don't know about the whole nice and kind part. We're actually finding out from the dissenters of the Duggar clan or whatnot that it's actually been pretty abusive. Like as far as living in the family, well, they put off this whole idea that they're all happy-go-lucky and whatnot, but it's kind of being revealed that they're actually a bit more abusive than people realize.
Yeah, they don't show you that part on TV, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, they don't show.
Do they use corporal punishment? Because I know someone who'd love to talk about it.
Yeah. No. Well, I don't know about that. I know that one of the Duggars recently dissented, and she's kind of opened up about it and whatnot. So I doubt that there was like corporal punishment. I think it's been more emotional kind of abuse, but that's at least what I've been hearing. But yeah, so the Duggars, yeah, they were actually in the news because the little Duggar, the Duggar that like pretty much got married so that she could have sex, is saying that, hey, you liberal Christians are going to hell. I'm all right with God though.
Yeah, throwing their own under the bus right there.
Yeah, I know, which is kind of odd.
It's gotten fuzzy, like Christianity and Republican. It's I would offer up and dare anyone to stand up in church and say they're a Democrat and see what happens. I'm not gonna say that, but I mean I personally think like it's just gotten too intertwined. It's if you're a Christian you have to be a Republican. If you're a Republican you have to be a Christian. I mean it's stupid. You should be able to be a Christian and be a Democrat or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Pretty bad.
actually, out in Idaho, there was a representative that's Republican and Christian that is opposed to making the state religion Christianity, because and what he said, he actually said something really awesome. He said that I'm seeking to unite people under freedom and not separate them or divide them due to religion. And
Hmm.
that's what he felt that setting the state religion to Christianity would do, is not so much that it would have like a real effect on policy or anything maybe, but just that the non-Christian citizens of the state would not feel part of the state or something like that, like they would be
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean,
cast
there are
aside.
sensible people out there, and that's the whole idea behind secular government is not to quash freedom of religion or anything like that. It's just so everybody feels welcome and a part of the legislative or governmental process. Everybody feels like their voice has equal weight and value. Um, so, instead of having, these prayers to open up meetings and whatnot that tend to be 95% Christian, why does that have to be a part of government functions at all, or meetings or anything of that nature? I mean, just leave it all completely out. And that's not anti-religion. That's just neutrality towards religion. I mean, because if you have one religion represented, you should have all religions represented, and there's thousands of religions. So that would be way too time consuming. So it's probably just best to leave that out. And if you want to vote your conscience or vote your religious values or whatever have you, or speak your mind, but to actually have the government bodies or the local boards or whatever actually having these prayers open up their meetings, like it only serves to divide. There's just no reason for it.
Well, yeah, and also as we knew beforehand, and as we've seen afterwards, the whole prayer before town meetings thing has really opened up the stage for people to block everybody that isn't Christian, and we saw that in a few states already. Them, specifying, well, only Christian prayers are going to be said, kind of deal. Um, and that really is a shame, and it's a shame because you know for some reason they can't see how it just divides people, and how just to stroke that ego and plant that flag, you're willing to totally disregard a portion of your population. um, but anyways, we're heading on past our hour. But I would like to pimp the prototype atheist here, and his lovely wife. But
No pimping my wife. Okay?
no, no, I just didn't want to seem like I was
Good.
forgetting her or anything. Um, but I throughout the whole interview, I didn't tell you this before, but I've actually got your YouTube link up under your name there, on your lower third kind of deal. Um,
All
but
right.
but yeah, I've got your YouTube link up there. He's also on Twitter as Prototype Atheist, and he's even got a Facebook page, Prototype Atheist. I'd suggest you go into all of those places and following or tweeting or whatever you do at the respective location. Is there anything that you want to say to the secular TV audience or the Godless engineering audience?
um No, I mean, I think that religion doesn't have to be a deal breaker. So, whether you're already married and you change your mind at some point, or even if you're single and you're looking to find somebody that's a match for you, or maybe looking to get married, or dating or what have you. It all just depends. It depends on the person. It depends on your attitude, how important religion or atheism is to you. Obviously, you know, while atheists are growing in numbers, we're still quite a minority. And so if you're limiting yourself to just other atheists, you're going to be ruling out a lot of people. And and people change. That's something important to keep in mind too. Is that people change. And if you really commit to somebody and you really love somebody, then you'll make it work. You'll get through it. This really shouldn't be any different than any other conflicts that may come up in a marriage. I think that a lot of people give up on their marriages far too easily these days, and don't really put the effort into the relationships that they should. Um, it takes effort, but I can respect if people don't want to get married. I can respect if people don't want to have kids. That's a personal decision. I don't have any problem with that. But if it is something that you choose to do, it should be something that you actually commit to, and actually, you take vows, you hold to your word. And I respect that, even not being religious myself. I gave my word as a man, and regardless of what happens, my atheism, or if she remains a Christian or what have you, we're just going to stick through it. And it's just something that, you just get along with. You learn to deal with it, and work it out, basically, and compromise. And that's what it's all about. So it doesn't need to be a deal breaker. Even if you're an atheist, you shouldn't look past people who might be Christians or theists, if it's not something that's super important to them. And just basically give it a chance. And uh, also, there's a book out there that came out last year by Dale McGowan. He's also an atheist married to a Christian, and the title is escaping me right now. I think it's called In Faith and in Doubt. I think that's what the title of the book is. So that might be something also that you would be interested in reading if you find yourself in this situation, or something that may be potentially in your future. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say.
Yeah, basically, just good luck to anyone who is married, because it's challenging as it is. You know, it is what it is. Try and find someone that's my basic motto is find someone that's like as fucked up as you and live happily ever after. You know, it is what it is. It's hard. It's harder when you're of different faiths. So although it's like, yeah, you can work through it and get it done, it is more difficult. It is. It's it's very hard to deal with, especially with raising kids. That's probably the hardest part for me, which we didn't touch on too much tonight. But I don't know. That's about it. Thanks for having me on.
No, yeah, I'm glad that both of you were able to come on and talk about this. And I'm glad that the discussion didn't really get heated at all. I know I generally tend to get people worked up whenever I'm discussing it with somebody of a different faith. So that's why I tried to really be very non-confrontational in this. Not that I had to keep it in mind the entire time, just that in this setting, I wanted you to be comfortable, talking and whatnot.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. But for those of you out there, I hope you will join me next week. I can't remember who I'm supposed to have on right now, but I know I've got David Viviano coming on in the future, as well as a bunch of other people. So Ryan Bell, he's the guy that went, a whole year without God. And he came out the other end atheist. Kirk Cameron had a different experience when he investigated his faith. He came out stronger, I guess, for monetary reasons. But anyways, I hope everybody has a very nice night, weekend, and don't forget to think skeptically and stay godless. And Brendan, what's yours?
Keep calm. It seems legit.
That it does. All right. I hope everybody has a good night.